What's up, folks? Johnny Lee Reinoso here with Don't Admire, Acquire. Today you're going to acquire the information, the knowledge of the 5 critical things, 5 key things salespeople should never do. Now, why are we talking about only 5? Well, for starters, I broke it down. I did a ton of research on this. I had my team do a little research on this. And trust me, some of it's going to sound a bit juvenile. Oh, I know that, Johnny. It's nothing earth-shattering. Some of it might be, oh, well, you know what? I actually tend to do that a little bit. And some of it, again, might be very simple. But what we have found was that folks who are just getting started and folks who have been in the game for 20 years continue to make either 1, 2, or all of these mistakes. Let's get started.
I'm Johnny Lee Reinoso, and this is Don't Admire, Acquire.
So, 5 things salespeople should never do. I took some notes here. As I mentioned, we have done tremendous research. I have looked this up and spent some time. I've spoken to salespeople, from folks who just started this year in sales to folks who have been in the game of complex sales, high-ticket sales, and even B2C sales for over 20 years. And folks continue to make this fatal mistake, these fatal mistakes, because every single one of the 5 that we're going to put up here on the board, every single one is going to affect the deal from it getting closed or not, okay? From it moving forward and not. So it's critical, it's important that you really digest what are these 5 things and understand them. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. Do me a favor, if you like this content, like the video, share the video, and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you and thank you again for tuning in. So let's get right to it. 5 things. Number 1, fail to prepare. Very simple, very simple. But folks, every day in the game of sales, every day, folks fail to prepare. Prepare with the knowledge of their product and service? No. I guarantee that you're over-prepared when it comes to your product and service, when it comes to your value proposition. You're over-prepared. I'm talking about fail to prepare for that meeting, that particular meeting, or that particular prospect if you're cold calling. You're failing to prepare. In other words, do your research. What industry are they in? Okay? Have they been tremendously affected by what's happening in the world today? Right now it's COVID. Tomorrow it could be, the price of the commodity if they're in a commodity business, right? Whether it's oil, whether it's corn, whatever it is, energy. You got to understand. You have to spend the time doing the research so you can prepare for that meeting. Okay? Has their industry been affected? Has this executive been in the role for how long? How many years? Where did he or she work previously? Right? You got to understand this information. I'll tell you a little story about that in a second, but I want to continue on here. But you have to make sure that you prepare and you don't fail to prepare. Okay? That's point number 1. Point number 2, allow the prospect to control the conversation. We allow the prospect to control the conversation. One reason why we do that, the main reason why we do that, is because we fail to prepare. Because when you're ill-prepared, you don't really know what to say and when to say it sometimes. So you kind of let them dictate which way they want the call to go, right? I recently sat in on a call with one of my own members, one of my team members. He was on a call. Cold called this person, got him on the phone finally. Now, mind you, he's been cold calling this person for a long time. Gets the person on the phone, and he starts tripping. Now, I don't know if he was just kind of shell-shocked that he got the person on the phone, but he starts tripping. And the minute he articulates who he is and where he's calling from, the person says, "What does it cost for your services? How do you compare to this company? Can you just send me a proposal? I want to know more about with all the details." Yes, okay. No, you need to make sure that you're controlling the conversation. Look, they could request. Your prospect can ask you to maybe jump to one point versus the other. But make sure that when you're kicking off your meeting, that you're controlling the conversation and you're outlining the expectations, especially if it's a scheduled meeting. If it's a cold call, you want to make sure that you're leading the questions, that you're guiding it, right? Right? But in a meeting, in a real formal meeting, in your first meeting, when you have, let's say, 30 to 45 minutes with this prospect, you need to make sure that you are allowing the prospect to never control, but rather you're allowing yourself to be the guide and the leader of that discussion. It's critical that you know that, because the minute they're in control, they could easily, let me just write over here. They're navigating, I'm gonna do a little car here. I can't draw for the life of me. They're navigating the car. This is the pathway to close. And they could easily control the conversation and go off on a detour. And you got to bring them back to the main road, to the path to a close. So it's impossible for you to guide them to a close, guide them to the dotted line, to the ink on paper, if you're allowing them to control the conversation. And once they start to control the conversation, that's when they feel like they own you, and that's when they're going to dictate the timing, the price, the when, the how, the who, the everything. Okay? So it's critical that you always control the conversation. Point number 3. Now this is important, because when I say control the conversation, I don't mean that you... Yup, I said it, Johnny. Not earth-shattering, but it must be said. Talk too much. You cannot talk too much. If you're always constantly talking, which when you're in sales, when I say talk too much, typically that's the time when you're always jabbing features, jabbing benefits, jabbing features, jabbing benefits. You're sharing things that don't make any sense. Okay? You need to make sure that you're constantly focused on listening empathetically. Listening empathetically, okay? You want to listen to understand. So it's important that allowing your prospect to not control the conversation doesn't mean that now you are speaking the whole time. Okay? I hope you're with me. Point number 4, educate versus share. Okay? Never do what? Never educate. I hate it when I hear people say, we would like to find some time to educate you. I would like to take the next 30 minutes to educate you. Educate? I can't even believe I hear people say the word educate. Number 1, to educate someone is insinuating that they're not educated, okay? Now, I'm not talking about students, pupils, youngins that are in school. I'm speaking about when you're talking to a high-level executive, a potential buyer of your product or service, and you try to use the words, I want to take the next 30 minutes to educate you about my product or service. No! Do not ever use the word educate. Never do what? Use the word educate. You want to use the word share. Lisa, thank you again for your time. I look forward to sharing with you the work that we have been doing with leaders like yourself, how we've been able to impact organizations like yours, etc., 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 etc. Share. Share. And this is another one here. It's important that you don't share irrelevant information. I have found, let's call this 4A. I have found that more and more in this world of Zoom, in this world of using the technology at our hands in order to have these virtual meetings, that we're constantly trying to improve. By the way, I continue to get solicited by these companies. Let us take over your PowerPoint presentation. We want to fill it up with bells and whistles. We want to do all these automated, animated, all this crazy infographics. You name it, we have it, we could do it. I don't care about that stuff. Okay? That stuff doesn't wow me, and it doesn't sell me when a prospect shows me a PowerPoint that's colorful and beautiful and all of these cool things that happen to it and the sprinkling and the sparkles and all this stuff. It doesn't matter to me, okay? The net is 90% of the time when you take a PowerPoint presentation, let's assume this is a slide, okay? Let's assume that this right here is a slide. Typically you have bullet, 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 and then you have different things here, or maybe, subcategories here and all this stuff. That means nothing to me, okay? Or maybe a blurb of a customer that's in the utility business and I'm in the sales business. Or maybe the fact that you guys are global, and you might have here that you're a global company supporting organizations in Asia and who the hell knows where else in this world, and I just operate here in the United States. I mean, folks, you got to eliminate the garbage, okay? So point 4A is eliminate. Eliminate the garbage. Eliminate what's irrelevant. Eliminate what doesn't mean anything to your prospect. And that goes back to point 1, prepare. Know your audience. Be well prepared, okay? And last but not least, not ask for the sale. or in this case, in some cases rather, is next steps. I cannot believe. And you know what's crazy? You guys are going to find this shocking. You know what's even crazy? When I talked to you before about how I've spoken to people that have been in sales now that started just this year, and folks that have been in there for 20 years. If you were to guess which one the veterans don't do, the veterans, those who have been in the game for over 20 years or 10 or 15 years, guess which one they don't really do? The magic one. The one that makes it all possible. I could be so prepared for a meeting that is sick. I could analyze the performance reviews, the quarterly earnings, slice and dice a 10K of a Fortune 500 company and be so prepared to talk to a leader in that organization. I could control the conversation. I could lead and pace and guide that prospect. I could utilize the intelligence and the necessary words and frames of words so that I can guide and persuade that person to the next step. I could allow myself to talk enough while asking critical questions so I'm gaining the intelligence from the prospect, allowing him or her to speak just as much, if not more, than I am. I can share the wonderful things that we do at our organization. I can share all the great things that we've been able to do to impact a leader like that executive in that industry and in that company. I could do all of those great things. But if I don't ask for the damn sale, if I don't ask for next steps, if I don't quantify all of the good things that was discussed and articulate back to the prospect what I understood their pains were, what the needs are, what the challenges, the initiatives that they're dealing with, if I'm not able to then package that up, regurgitate it back to that person in a fashion utilizing value, and then wrap all that up with, let's talk next week. I mean, I'm so frustrated I dropped my thing. Let's talk next week on Tuesday. Hey, let's speak next week on Wednesday. I can see the critical time-sensitive challenge that you were able to share with me here. Michael, I don't want this to go too long without us having another discussion around this. And I want to bring my colleague with me who actually worked directly with some of the operational leaders that you've been just explaining. I want to bring over one of my colleagues who's actually a subject matter expert in your industry to talk a little further on how we've been able to impact organizations like yours by ways of this, that, and the other. I see that your challenge is time sensitive and the initiatives you have put forth are critical for you. I want to be sensitive to that time frame that you have and what I understand here. Let's go ahead and find time next week. Better yet, if they already know who you are, if it's the kind of business or service that you have that should be a first meeting, a good meeting to a close. Hey, Steve, from what I understand, it seems to be a mutual understanding of great value and what we could bring your organization, how we could address the challenges that you have. What is it going to take for us to get started this week? I mean, ask for the deal. Again, alarming, but I know you agree with me. Number 5, ask for the sale or next steps is the one most important thing of all of these. They're all critical, but this is probably the most. And you know what's crazy? The ones that are most experienced, the senior folks in this business, in the game of sales, drop the ball here all the time. Why? Because they reach a stage of complacency and because they believe that their S don't stink. That, you know what, I'm so good. I'm so good in this game, okay? My reputation, my case studies, okay? My referrals, okay? All of the great things that I have on LinkedIn that people talk to me about, my recommendations, okay? That should do this for me. All right. The fact that I articulated how good we are and what we could do for you, and I followed 1 through 4. Number 5 should go without being said. Folks, come on. Step up or step out. Okay? You cannot drop the ball. Again, the 5 things salespeople should never do. Let's repeat. 1, fail to prepare. 2, allow the prospect to control the conversation. Major no-no. 3, talk too much. Controlling the conversation doesn't mean you talk too much. Okay? You could control the other person while allowing them to talk. All right, and we can learn more about that if you want. Number 1, comment below. 2, check out my other videos because we talk about that in the art of sale, S-A-L-E, speak authoritatively, listen empathetically, and react. React, repeat, empathize, ask, close, thank them. 4, educate. Don't ever use the word educate. Don't ever use the word educate. You want to share. You never want to educate. You want to share your value. Share the work that you're able to do. Share the experience that they should get by working with you. And last but not least, and most critical, number 5 is ask for the deal. Ask for next steps. Thank you for stopping by. Again, don't admire, acquire.